Man, another good day for us. Always good when you can start moving towards situational football, and we're at that stage of development where we start working on line to gain like scenarios, possession downs. We finished practice with a 2-minute, and it's important that we not only introduce that segment, but it's also important of when we introduce that segment. We do it at the end of practice thoughtfully, so that we work on developing conditioning and get displays of conditioning. It's important that guys have the ability to operate with great detail and execute communication and all the things that are big in that situation, but do so at the end of practice when there's a little less gas in the tank. And I just think that's reflective of what transpires at the end of halves or the end of games. And so, this is football-like. We've been talking a little bit about that, the drill work that we do. But as closely as we can relate it to certain elements of ball, it just aids the growth process. And so we'll continue to focus on those things, appreciate the efforts and the attention that we're getting. Master Teague is new at the running back position. We'll run a little thin in those lines based on day-to-day availability, so it's good to have him. We'll get him up to speed and continue with that process. All those that are missing work are really kind of status quo, no new information in regards to those things. The guys that are day-to-day continue to be so. Guys more extended like Marcus Allen continue to be in that category as well. Questions?
Mike, you give a bunch of guys, some veterans, some days off today?
Yes, I'll do that from time to time, and you guys know our approach there. It's less about those guys, to be quite honest with you, and it's just a means of thinning the lines and providing more opportunities for younger guys. And, we're going to treat everybody fairly. We're not going to treat everybody the same. More veteran players need less reps in order to be game ready. Younger players need more. And so we think of unique ways to provide everybody with what they need.
Coach, having the officials here, like you said, it really helps with that situational aspect. But what else are the players there? I think we saw Gunner maybe talk to them, hashing a couple things out. How are they able to kind of gain from that, them being here today?
You get to learn the unwritten rules of the game. There's an official rule book, and those are words on the page, but it's no substitute for having these guys out here and getting the dialogue and getting their perspective on what the tipping points are. We were having a OPI discussion, offensive pass interference, and extended elbow contact above the waist is a trigger for officials in terms of officiating that component of a play. And so, they get to hear little minutia like that helps them play the game and play it at a professional level.
Mike, what did you like about the way that Mitch Trubisky ran that 2-minute drill at the end?
He's a veteran, and he displayed that. I thought his communication was good. I thought he directed younger players and made good use of opportunities to do so, stoppages of the clock, huddle scenarios, et cetera. But that's what you expect veteran players to do.
Mike, you were talking about the game-like situations. I'm going to ask you about the 7 shots drill. I believe you introduced that right when they changed the rule for extra points. At that point, you guys were one of the teams that really embraced going for 2. Now you're more like league average in terms of going for 2. Where do you continue to see value in that? And then in this situation, how much does the coaching staff put stock into the performance, specifically the quarterbacks?
That's a lot of parts in that question. I'll touch a couple points, okay? There's always unintended consequences for everything that we do. It is a 2-point play, but it's very relatable to the tight red zone. 3rd and 3 on the 3, for example, or possession down, the difference in the 4-point swing, whether it's offensively or defensively. You win the down, it's 7. You lose the down, you're running your field goal unit out. Or you're forcing your opponent to do the same. And so there's many unintended consequences that gives us latitude regarding drill work. It's not in a specific box.
Coach, we had a chance to talk to Blaine yesterday, and I know you have a personal connection with the Stewart family. Just how much does it mean having Blaine Stewart on your coaching staff?
He's a young coach that's working hard. Not a lot of acknowledgement for young, hard-working coaches.
Mike, what have you seen from Dan Moore so far as he's entering his second camp?
I think it's reasonable for him to take a significant step. He's a second-year guy. He's been through this process, and not only that, but he's got awesome experience through his first lap around the track, and I think that he's been displaying that, and so it's exciting to watch that growth continue.
Mike, what have your impressions been of Chris Oladokun, and what can a guy like that who's not getting many opportunities to throw do to distinguish himself here?
When you're quote unquote in the 4th quarterback slot, you better be continually working while you wait for your opportunity. This is not a patient man's business. We're not going to ask him to be patient. We will ask him to work while he waits. We've had others in the past in that scenario. I talked to him a lot about Joshua Dobbs, who was in a similar scenario years ago, didn't get many opportunities, stormed on at the finish and made the roster. And so he has that as an example if he needs encouragement.
Mike, you've had several chances to see Devonta Casey in the starting role because of Minka Fitzpatrick being out. What's your evaluation of how he's taken on things and the flexibility he's been able to give you guys in that spot?
It's ongoing. He's done a nice job, but I think that's a reasonable expectation given his experience in the National Football League.
Mike, what was the thought process behind the way you guys rotated quarterbacks today with Mitch taking 2, then Mason, and kind of rotating it through there?
We're just thoughtfully mixing it up, making those guys adjust, putting them with different groups, getting to watch them in different groups, and it'll continue.
Is that a similar mentality with the left guard position, and how do you kind of assess that battle with Kendrick and Kevin?
Very similar, and still too early to tell. Both guys are working well.
What about the other guys in the huddle? As different quarterbacks, they get different faces in there. How are the other guys on the offensive side adapting with other quarterbacks?
You'd have to ask them.